Welcome back to the Rialto. We're so happy you're with us tonight. My name is Bill Crandall. I lead the group of community volunteers who've come together to transform this iconic theater into a home for live music, theater, art, education, and community events, as well as for movies. And that's going to be for all ages. Tomorrow, right here in this room, we're meeting with representatives from the state of New Jersey. And as part of a program, we're hopeful they are going to fund 80% of this program that you just saw in that video. And the program focuses on the development and rehabilitation of arts facilities as part of a core part of the New Jersey economy. In short, that means New Jersey believes in spaces like the Rialto. How about us? Do we believe? Do we have believers? Woo! All right. Because when we get word of this funding, the fun part begins. We then have 1 year to raise $9 million. That $9 million is going to go to complete our construction costs and fund our early operations. So we're going to need you, and we're going to need all your connections, and we need you to spread the word and support us. We have, in addition to individual contributions, we have sponsorship opportunities, we have naming rights opportunities, and we have eager board members wearing these things all over the place, and they want to talk to you about all of that. So again, it's going to be 1 year, $9 million, but for every dollar we all put in, the state would put in 4. Do we like that deal? Excellent. All right. End of my pitch for the moment. So, speaking of art we believe in, tonight's guest is a Westfield-based and world-class visual artist whose background as a psychologist allows her to seamlessly blend art and science to blow all of our collective minds. Our host, another Westfield resident, is the editor-in-chief of Women's Day, and she's a published author as well as a TV personality. Oh, the talent in the 07090. Please welcome our host, Megan B. Murphy, and our guest, Gail Winbury.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have you here. So let's get started. The thing that I find most fascinating about Gail is that, she had an entire career as a psychologist before becoming a world-renowned artist. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your background, how you fell in love with the arts, but had this background in psychology.
Okay, here we go. I grew up in New Jersey, but I grew up in Livingston when it was country, but I've lived here close to 40 years. And I came from a family that believed in psychology and loved the arts. So I spent part of my childhood going to the Metropolitan Museum. I was given a book about this thick of, and it was inappropriate, probably I was 10 years old, of Picasso's drawings and paintings, which I absolutely loved. And I came from a family, like most of us, that was an imperfect family, so there were problems. And I wanted to be maybe an artist, maybe a poet, maybe a psychologist when I was growing up. And I talked to my mother at some point, and I wanted to go to art school, and she said, a woman has to support herself. And it's very hard to support yourself if you're 20 years old and you're starting out as an artist. And I loved psychology, and so I took her advice and I became a psychologist. Now, another piece which is really important is I grew up painting with my father as a child in the basement of our house. He was a research scientist, but he loved the arts. And so he was an oil painter, and I would sit in the basement next to him, and we would do our oil paintings. And he would say to me, Gail, you're the one with the imagination. And what it really was that I didn't know any of the rules, so I could break all of the rules since I didn't know them. So that's a little bit about how that happened. I always painted, with the exception of the 6 years when I was in graduate school getting my doctorate, because there was no time to do anything but study and do the work.
I do think we have a high school picture. I love a high school picture. Everybody who's seen me. Yes.
Can you tell where I am? If you look in the first row in the middle, and my son happens to be here tonight. You never saw me at that age. I'm somewhere between 16 and 19 years old. And
Okay. So I think so. You working as a psychologist.
yes,
And then you start to get into the arts. And I think this would be a lovely time to see some of that early artwork.
absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go to 1995. This was a pivotal piece. It's called Paul. It's a watercolor. And the reason it was pivotal for me is that William Zimmer, who was the art critic for the New York Times, was the juror at an exhibition that was at the Summit, the Art Center in Summit. And he gave me an award. The award was the Curtis Hillier Memorial Award, and with it came $100, but that bought me some paints. But what was most important was it was the first time, even though I painted my entire life, I felt I could call myself an artist. So there was this shift in identity. I was a psychologist, and then suddenly this important person is saying, your work is really good. So that's Paul. And I'm not telling you this to brag as much as to tell you this really was a pivotal moment for me. To have someone who to validate your expression as an artist is really important.
Now you're still working as a psychologist, but then you continue painting.
Well,
What comes next?
At that time, yes,
Yes.
yes, I was still working as a psychologist. Can we go to the next? Okay, so this is also early work from the late 90s, and the piece on the left is a drawing of my son from a photograph. You recognize him?
He got really tall.
He really did. And the one on the right is a mother and child from a photograph. And it was done in acrylic, and I absolutely hated acrylics. And we'll have a chance to talk about that some later.
And then, yeah.
Okay, so this is a painting which is also acrylic, and it was in the 90s. And it's called Woman of a Certain Age. And the reason I'm including this is that this was a 60-year-old, could have been 65-year-old woman who was an art model. And I thought she was just beautiful. What she showed on her face, her history and her character, was something that I really wanted to capture. And then I had a book club. And in the book club were women from about 40 into their 70s. And I had the women in the book club begin to sit for me for portraits. So this is early work, not early from my
I
childhood.
can't, Debbie
What?
is not happy now.
Debbie was not, Debbie was a real trooper.
This was a Westfield book club?
This was a Westfield book club, yes, yes.
Where's Debbie? Is Debbie in the audience?
I hope she's not, but I do have her permission to show this, and she doesn't look like that any longer, and I'm sure she's much happier. Okay, so I took classes at the Montclair Art Center. I took classes in Europe. I took classes in the School of Visual Arts. And I really wanted to work abstractly, but it took me 10 years before I felt comfortable beginning to work abstractly. It's terrifying to work abstractly. It's much easier to do portraits, in my humble opinion. These are two paintings which are called Dandelion Waltz. And they're oil paintings because at this point I'd given up acrylics, which is a plastic, and I liked the sensuality and the color and the light that you could capture with oils. And it's meant to be a triptych or two individual paintings. So this was the beginning of my shift into abstraction.
So your artist statement talks about expressing things that are difficult to say in words. And it feels like to me that painting became another language for you.
It became another language for me, absolutely. And I also think that this is the psychologist in me talking, there are experiences that we have that are pre-verbal, before we have spoken language. And I think art has the capacity to capture some of those experiences that we can't put into language. And I also So, yes.
And we have a whole series, though. I would love to look at some
Yes.
of these paintings in the psychological series.
Okay. So, I had a solo museum show in 2023, and it was called The Girl Who Drew Memories. And it was there were two galleries. One gallery was filled with my paintings, and the paintings were from a series called The Other Side. I tend to work in series. The series lasts for 2 years. I have no idea why they stopped, but by 2 years, I'm done. And this series, The Other Side, was based on early childhood. I really wanted to capture a sense of what early childhood felt like, something that people could identify with. What's important is to know these paintings are 5 feet tall. They're body size. And when they're shown high. So part of what I wanted all of the viewers to have is an experience of being a little child in relationship to someone else or something else that was larger than us. Okay. This is her favorite fairy tale, and I brought a little prop. You'll have to excuse me.
I love a prop, Gail. Let's go.
Okay. I've carried this book with me since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. This was a book that my mother gave me as a gift. It's a book of Japanese fairy tales. And there's one story in it, which is about, I'll give you the gist of it. A little boy, he is raised by farmers. He doesn't want to be a farmer. He's a rebel. And he goes to the temples in Japan, and on the soji screens, he paints cats and gets into a lot of trouble for that. But ultimately, he becomes an artist. I'm really making this story much shorter. This painting, her favorite fairy tale, is a painting which is about my journey to becoming an artist. And it wasn't until I was probably in my 40s or 50s that I had any idea why that story was so important to me. And that's sort of the power of the unconscious. I'm carrying this book no matter where I move, and I didn't even know why, but now I understand. Okay.
Okay. So what we have more. I
Oh.
want to know.
Yeah, that's
We have more in
okay.
this series.
We have 9 more to
Oh.
go, Megan. We got to get
I don't want
going.
to cheat anybody out of this beautiful artwork.
All right. So I just want you to see, this is a painting door open, and you can see my gestural marks, the use of mixed black in my paintings, the vibrancy of the color. I love color, and I love gesture. In the proposal that I wrote for the museum exhibition, I wanted to have poetry as part of it. And my thought was, okay, someone will get up there and they'll read a Sylvia Plath poem. If those of you know Daddy, I mean, that would be a perfect poem about early childhood. Instead, the curator invited, and there are brilliant writers in Vermont, 7 Vermont poets, to sit in front of a painting of mine of their choice and to write an original poem for it. So that poem, which I've been told we don't have time to read.
Let's read it.
Oh,
Get up and do a dramatic reading. I'm here for it.
okay, here we go.
Let's not cheat anybody out of this. poem.
Fireflies by Rachel Michaud. We want to be gods, but we are only boys. With our mason jars, we run outside to capture fireflies. The holes in the lids mean they can live until Saturday. We will let them go in the dark theater. If we make stars, we can be gods. But we are only boys and can't wait. We smear the fireflies on our arms and legs and wheel into the night. We want to shine. We want to be gods.
Wow.
So
What an incredible experience having someone write
oh
to
my
your
God.
work.
It was astounding. I mean, I was in tears when I
Wow.
got to read these poems. But one of the reasons I wanted to read the poem and show this to you is I didn't need anyone to know what my personal narrative was. All of these paintings were created from me brainstorming every single visual memory I had from my childhood. Not a photograph, not something someone told me, literally a visual memory. And I took a piece of that memory, and that was the beginning of the painting. This woman experienced the painting in a completely different way than I did, and that was exactly what
That
I wanted.
opened your eyes.
Yes, she did. I love the poem. The sweater, this is called The Sweater, and the sweater in the middle of the painting was the image that I started with.
And this poet interpreted it as grief.
Absolutely. There is that little purple gray area right there, she saw it as a mitten, and that brought her to where she went with the poem. I didn't even see that that was a little gray mitten. It's amazing what people see in your work
Yeah.
that you as the artist may not have intended or may not have known was there. Okay. Two more paintings from the series, London Bridges, Surrender. Okay, I want to stop here. So imagine that this painting is life size. It's 5 feet tall, it's higher up, and you're standing in front of this painting. And what I wanted in this particular painting was I wanted to replicate the experience that we all have as children being in relationship with someone who is much more powerful than us and maybe scary. And this painting is called The Fearmonger. And I can promise you, everyone who stands in front of the painting is disturbed by it. And that's what I wanted. Okay. Who remembers Harold and his purple crayon? Yes, okay. Well, I loved Harold and his purple crayon, and it wasn't until today I realized why. He was an artist, wasn't he? Anyways, this is Harold and his blue crayon. And then the final painting I'll show you from this series is On His Shoulders. And I'll just tell you the brief story behind it. I was a little girl, we were in the Midwest, and my father got us lost in either a cornfield or a wheat field. I have no idea which it was, but the stalks were so high and I was really little. So in order for us to get out, I had to sit on his shoulders, and that was a wonderful memory. So this series was really trying to encompass all of the ranges of what we experience as young children.
So, what emotions or ideas tend to pull you toward the canvas?
I think it depends on the time, but we'll talk about this painting.
Because I'm going to get you to Field of Green.
yeah.
Field of Green series. Because
Yes.
what pulled you to do
Yes.
that
Well,
next
that's okay.
2-year stint?
I'm sure that everyone remembers the pandemic and the social unrest and other things that were going on at that time. This series was composed during about 2020 to 2022. And in my mind, what I wanted was the vaccines. We had the vaccines, so I could be back in my original studio. And I wanted something that was calm and soothing and referenced nature. Little did I know that the surface of these paintings were far from calm and soothing. There was a lot of texture there. Can we go to the next slide? And that's it. Oh, I had a solo exhibition at Kane University. And if you go back one slide, Kane University has a president who really believes in the arts. And so there are, I think, 6 to 8 galleries on the campus, and gorgeous, gorgeous galleries. Okay, so this was the first painting in the series. And if you notice at the bottom third, there's this kind of blue-black lattice. You see what I'm talking about? Right down there? Okay. This is Field of Green 1. Let's go to Field of Green 2. Every subsequent painting, and there were 15 of them, started with that same compositional structure. So my process was to take away and erase and eradicate and cover up until I got to the essence of the painting. So here we have this solitary red being person in this field of green. What'd you say?
Virus.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even, oh my gosh.
Oh my God. After.
But this is what happens with abstract art. People are able to project themselves into it. That never occurred to me. So, okay, that's the essence of the painting. That's another one. When I work in linen, I like to leave the linen showing. If we can continue, okay, let's stop here. When I'm working abstractly, I'm always turning my canvases. So you can see at the very top of the canvas is what remains of that compositional structure. And in this particular piece, I was tired of that pale, calm green, and I really wanted it to be more vibrant. Here I have that compositional structure on the side, and we can just go through the rest. Okay, the final paintings, the most recent paintings from that series. So, Field of Green had a different inception than the more psychological
So
paintings.
I am fascinated by your process. So how long does it take to do one painting? Where are you? Like, do you just stand there with a canvas? Do you have a coffee? Like, what is it? What's happening?
Oh, okay. This is my new studio, and this is Mana Contemporary in Jersey City, and that's a painting that I just started. So I usually go to the studio around 10, and I stay anywhere between 2 until 5 at night. And recently, I've been working from 10 until 1, completely oblivious to time, completely oblivious to being hungry. And then I stop, and I have this fabulous sofa, and I don't tell anyone, but I do lie down on the sofa.
You
and
just
rest
told
a little
everyone.
bit. I know, but it's not going to get out of here. And I'll have something to eat, and then I'll continue to paint.
But is there paint all over you? Have you not
my
eaten in
God.
those 4 hours? Like, I need a visual.
If you notice my son nodding his head, I invariably have paint on my face. I wear overalls that have paint on them. There's a little bit of paint residue on this hand. So typically when I get home, I take a shower because I am just covered with paint.
I love that. So you're going to take us through a few paintings that show us your process.
Yes. Okay. So on the left is the beginning of a painting. And I just want to talk a little bit in terms of my process. Each series is a little bit different, but with this series, I start with a ground of very pale pigment, which is similar to my skin tone. And I do that intentionally because for me, I have a very physical relationship with the canvases. And again, so you know, this is 52 inches by 52 inches, so it's pretty big. The second on the right is the next permutation of the painting. And when I have the ground on, I make marks in charcoal in the wet paint, and then I make them into forms. So you can see the forms beginning. On the left again is the next permutation, and I have this very vibrant form right in the center. And on the right, I thought it was too much color, so I wanted to tone it down, and I put gray down. And then,
And is this happening in the course of one day?
oh my
2
God,
weeks,
no!
months?
I never answered that question. A painting can take anywhere from several months to a year. And this painting, I mean, minus a little accident that happened in between, this painting probably took 9 months to finish. And I put that phthalo blue in the center because I really wanted, I love warm colors. And I know that I needed something in there that was going to be cool and really created a kind of shock or a contrast. Next. Okay. So that's me in my studio. And you see how the canvas is fairly close to my body size. So those are the marks that I made. I talked about putting a thin ground down and making marks and then making them into forms. So I'm standing in front of this canvas and I fall in love with it. And I decide this is the painting. Any of the artists in here know that there's this process where we get attached to some piece of a painting, some piece of an art, and we try and make the whole composition work around that tiny fragment. Well, that doesn't work. But for 3 or 4 months, I convinced myself this was the painting, and this was the painting I was going to show in galleries. What really was going on was I was terrified that I was going to ruin that beautiful lyrical drawing. Okay, so on the left is the first painting that happened. And it happened very quickly after 4 months of waiting. So I had built up all of
So
this.
you literally stared at that canvas for months before you were ready
Oh,
to.
anyone who would come into my studio, I would say, oh, yeah, this is the painting. It wasn't until I had a lot of input related to something in art school, which we'll talk about later, that I got the energy and it just came out of me in a burst. I call that, and I'm not a religious person, I don't even believe in God, but I call that a gift from God. There are rare moments as an artist, and I'd say once every 5 to 10 years where a painting just pours out of you. And then on the right is the finished version, and it's called Blossom. And the changes that I made were subtle. I mean, you can see that I added a little shadow on the bottom. I took away some of the drips. I intensified some of the color.
And are you disciplined during this process, or is it all intuitive?
You know, when I read that question, I was so struck by it. They're not opposites. I am very disciplined as an artist. I get into the studio and I start working immediately, and I don't leave until I've cleaned my studio up.
Okay.
And I work even when I have absolutely no inspiration. I work even when it is painful to go into the studio because I don't want to face I'm seeing nods from artists here. I don't want to face the possibility that I have nothing to say. I've done it enough that I know every time I say I'm going to burn my studio down, that will pass in time. But my work is also intuitive. I make a mark and I respond to that mark, and I make another mark and I respond to that mark as well.
So your discipline allows you to be intuitive.
The structure of the discipline allows me to be intuitive. I work really hard, and my work ethic allows me to be intuitive. And then at some point, I step back and I analyze the painting and I analyze the formal qualities to decide, is it working, is it not working?
And we also talked about what role uncertainty plays in your process, which I think is interesting.
For me, uncertainty is love and hate. I need uncertainty to continue to stay passionate and involved and interested in painting. If there's no uncertainty, if there's no mystery, if there's no struggle, why do it? It's boring to me. So I want the uncertainty of not knowing exactly where this painting is going to end up. But at the same time, that uncertainty is very painful. And again, for the artists in here, I'm seeing nods, that there are times where you're standing before a canvas and have no idea what to do or how to resolve what needs to happen next. And that can be a very difficult, painful experience.
I want to go and talk a little bit about reinvention because I just think it's so incredible that you got your MFA last week.
Not last week, but last August.
Okay, very
Yes.
recently, right? Like that's
Thank
incredible.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Let's talk about that. People think there's this window for becoming an artist, and if I didn't paint apples in third grade, it's over, right? Like,
Well, okay. There's a window for becoming an artist. I think that there are limits. I mean, if you start at 70, most of us will not become an artist, although Alma Thomas, I won't go into her, did start painting seriously in her 70s. I'm going to ask you to ask that question again.
well, that's what was scary about reinventing yourself
Okay.
later in life.
I might fail.
But we love uncertainty.
I know, but that's the flip side, you know. I might fail. I might be successful. What does that mean? Sitting in this audience is one of my oldest and dearest friends who is a psychologist, who knew me as a psychologist. No, 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 you don't have to raise your hand unless you want to. It was very hard for her to accept the change. It was hard for me to make the transition. Maybe I would be successful. And early on, I had a lot of early success, and I thought naively that that's how the art world works. You're successful and you continue on this upward trajectory. The art world is much more like this.
So,
Okay.
what gave you that confidence to say, okay, I'm going for my MFA right now?
Okay. Truthfully, first of all, I was supposed to have spinal surgery. And I was in the OR wearing my Johnny, and the neurosurgeon and myself decided we're not going ahead with the surgery. So that opened up this space. And I had been thinking of getting my MFA for 10 years. And the applications were due in about 2-3 weeks. So I quickly used that time and energy and I put applications in. I am someone who believes that we have unlimited ability to continue to grow throughout our entire lives, and that's part of my value system. So I think I was enacting that, but it was also terrifying.
What was it like to be back in grad school?
Well, some of
Oh,
my
yay! The overalls.
oh right. This is my okay. So for 3 summers, I lived in Boston and I went to graduate school at the Mass College of Art and Design. And this is the first summer I've been in Westfield in about 4 years. So that's my studio up in Boston. And some of my cohort were 26. Most of my cohort were somewhere in their 40s and 50s. And the faculty were my peers. I can remember saying to one of the professors, "You're just an old white man." But I could say that because,
Because do you believe women become more creative and fearless with age?
okay, yes, I think that as women age, we become less concerned about pleasing and less concerned and less willing to caretake. I'm just curious, has any woman in this audience noticed that as you hit your 50s or your okay, okay, okay. So I think that female artists, as we age, can take greater risks. We're less concerned about the audience and the external. I won't go into the research, but there is a little research that suggests that artists as they age are able to take greater risks.
So your thesis was freedom and frailty, the intersection of age, gender, and embodiment. What drew you to those themes?
Well, one of them is I'm older. Another is that my painting process is very physical. And there was very little in the literature talking about what happened to women who were abstract artists as we age. And abstract art, at least the way I paint, is a very physical process. And the reality is, as we age, our bodies change. And so I wanted to explore both personally and in terms of what was in the literature, what it means to get older, what kind of accommodations have to be made. So, on one hand, there's that increase in creativity and risk taking, and on the other hand, my stamina is less. I no longer go way up on ladders to paint way high on a painting.
Yeah.
So, that's where that came from.
Okay, let's make sure we cover everything. Um, we wanted to talk about struggles with imposter syndrome and legitimacy as
Yes.
someone who came to art later in life.
Okay. I didn't call myself an artist for a very long time. It wasn't until William Zimmer put his thumb up and said, "Gail, this is good work." I didn't feel I had a right to call myself an artist. And I struggled with that from 1995, probably up until the present. I think that all of us have feelings of being fraudulent at times. But because I didn't have the degree and I was surrounded by other artists who all had their MFAs, that was a little difficult. So now, get out of my way. I have my MFA.
Where's it framed? Where is it hanging? Where's the diploma?
That's a really good question. I don't even know if I have the diploma.
We
Oh
gotta
my
fix
gosh. I have to. I have to contact the school. I was looking over here. My husband is there. Okay. You don't have it.
Yeah, no, go because
If we can go back one, that is my thesis show. So these days, when you're getting your MFA, there is a lot of theory that you have to read. And that was not so easy for me. My retention was less than it might have been when I was 26. You also have to give an artist talk and write this thesis, and then you have a thesis show. So these are photos from my thesis show in a gallery in Boston.
is there more?
This is a recent painting, and you asked me how long a painting might take. This painting probably took me a year, and it's done. But I sat with it for a long time. I didn't like it. I put it against the wall. I turned it away. I worked on it more, and then I figured out what I wanted to do with it. It's called Blue Note.
So is done just a feeling?
Yes, for me.
Yeah.
I feel it physically. I just know when a painting is done. When I go to my other artist colleagues and I say, "Do you think this is finished? Do you think this is finished?" What I'm really saying is, I don't want to stay in this struggle. Tell me it's done so I can stop. But I know it's not done.
So if we walked into your home, is your art hanging?
My art is hanging. My son is nodding yes. Other artists' art is hanging. And one of the reasons I got a studio first in East Orange for about 10 years and now in Jersey City is that I was taking over the entire house with my paintings. So,
Now, do we have any more paintings in the reinvention era? Yes.
yes. Okay, so William Zimmer, he liked that painting of mine because he said it showed humor. This is called Chicken Out the Window or Chicken Window and Socks. So the humor's coming up again. This is my new studio in Jersey City.
But you moved into like 2 weeks ago.
Maybe 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks
I
ago.
started painting for the first time in about 2 or 3 months last week, and it was so exciting. This is the gallery section of the studio, and then the back part is the working part of the studio. And if people are interested, we have open studios, and you can always call an artist and say, "Can I come and visit?"
So oh yeah. I love that too. We talked about how it's that size. You're small.
It's body size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we have more in this series? I don't want to leave any
I
artwork out.
think that this
That's where we
is
go?
this is
Okay.
where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have been in Westfield for 40 years. Can you talk about how Westfield has shaped you
Yes.
as an artist, informed your work?
Okay, close to 40 years, not
Close
yet
to
40.
40
I
years.
think it might be
Listen, my math is
37 or
terrible. So
38. That's
close.
okay.
Close.
That's okay. Um, what I was saying to Lisa earlier is my studio has always been in a gritty urban area where I have to be afraid at times. I can't work at night. Now I can because there's 24-hour security, but my other studio, I couldn't work at night. I didn't feel safe. When I come back to Westfield, it feels like an oasis. I can kind of breathe. In our backyard, there's a tree which is at least 200 years old. It's huge. You can put your arm, well, you couldn't put your arms around it. Your arms aren't big enough. The house is 100 years old. And I come back and I feel like I am home and I'm safe. So, in terms of how it's affected my art, I can't answer that, but I will say, being here for 37 years, 38 years, I've been able to see this town change. Has anyone else been here that long? Okay. This town has grown enormously and has become much more inclusive, much more accepting of differences, and has allowed this new venture, the Rialto Center for Creativity, to actually begin to happen. And to witness all of those changes has really been a treat.
So when people look at your work or they leave this talk tonight, what do you hope stays with them from your work?
Honestly, I don't know how to answer that. I want my work to create a sense of emotion. And you may get some of that from looking at these slides. I think you'll get more from looking at the actual work itself. There's two paintings of mine from the Field of Green series that are on the side to the right.
I do want to open up to questions and allow everybody to ask their questions. But I think the one question I still can't help asking
What?
is that because you were a psychologist for so long, is the work a form of therapy? And is experiencing the work fully almost like therapy to the viewer?
I think that the art, my paintings, have the capacity to help people feel understood and not alone. I think that sometimes my paintings make someone feel uncomfortable because parts of life are uncomfortable. Sometimes the painting will seem beautiful and lyrical. So I think my goal is for people to feel something. It's really that simple.
And then I'm going to let you guys, I have to have
Yeah.
one more question.
What?
So when you stand in front of an abstract painting, how would you coach someone to really fully take it in and experience? Because it's not as obvious as like, that's the bridge in Mindawaskin Park.
Okay. The major thing I would say is slow down and breathe. People typically in front of abstract paintings find objects. Oh, there's an elephant. There's a dog.
A mitten.
There's a mitten. Because our brains want to make sense of things. We want to create a gestalt, take these broken parts and make them into whole. I don't think that that's what the artist necessarily intended. And continue with the question.
I think that's really beautiful. How do you experience a piece of abstract art for someone who isn't as open-minded, right? You stand in front of it. I love
Well,
that. You slow down.
you
You
need
allow yourself.
you want the work to slow people down because you have to look and you have to feel. But some people will say, "Oh, my child could make that painting." It took me 10 years before I felt I could begin to paint abstractly. But I don't think that there's necessarily one way of looking.
Okay, I'm going to open up to everyone else.
Please, yeah.
I have a hand right back there.
I knew you were going to ask a question.
So I have a sort of, it's not a fully formed question, but it's about language.
Okay.
Because you spoke of your art, and art in general may be referring to pre-language or above, outside of language. And you also said you don't want to have to inform viewer what you were thinking, but you still title your paintings. So
Well,
that's one for the question.
ahead. Okay.
And then the other half is you mentioned that you were interested in being a poet, and I wanted to know if you were still writing, and if you do, how that works with your art.
Okay. When I said I knew you were going to ask a question, some of the women who are in my critique group, which is what artists do, they get together, are here, and this woman always asks the best questions. I don't write poetry. I love poetry. In fact, my friend Melody, her daughter, just published a book, and I just ordered, and I've been reading her poems. Can you ask the first question again so I
So
can
is it
answer
about
it fully?
Titling the art. So is it more a matter of
thank you.
convenience?
No. Okay, the Field of Green series. Field of Green 1, Field of Green 2, Field of Green 3. Those were the titles. The reason was it was about this experience that we all shared and all experienced, and we all were sort of anonymous. It didn't need a title. People needed to stand in front of it and feel something. Yes, some of the paintings I want to give people a little hint. And I used to read a lot of poems and get some of the titles. One of the paintings we looked at is from a Sylvia Plath poem. So I love language. I love verbal language. I love visual language probably more. I find it more fun. But I'm not a poet.
Did the titles evolve from like Sad Debbie at the book club? Is that still what it was? Was it Sad Debbie? Because she's still my favorite. And I want to be in her book club.
Debbie was sad. I think that was a little bit of my humor coming out. Debbie was not happy. Yeah. I mean, I was sort of both describing what she was experiencing and also poking a little bit.
Okay, let's
Okay, so I have a question.
wait for the
Sorry, I know you can hear me, but so how do I get in your critique club? Because I would love to join. I'm an artist as well, trying to in that in between stage of the next series and phase and whatnot. But I wanted to ask you how many paintings, how many are up at the same time? I know you spoke of how long they take, which I know.
I would say that I have anywhere from 3 to 6 up in the studio at the same time, and I get restless.
Yeah.
And I'm working in oil paint, which takes longer to dry. So if I'm stuck with one painting, I can go on to another one.
Nice. Do you do many studies as well that are not meant to be final, or you just attack
No.
the canvas? Yeah.
No,
Same. Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
Some artists do.
Yeah. I'm the same.
I have a question though. So if you see your work hanging there, you're like, oh, I just wish I had a paintbrush right now. I just want to change that one thing. Like, do you scrutinize your work after the fact?
Well, I always step back and I analyze the work. Years later, I mean, I may look at some of the work that I did 10 or 15 years ago and think, oh, God.
That
And-
Debbie.
No, I do like Debbie a lot. I think that's so funny. But sometimes I have this whole series that I did, which was related to Matisse. And this fantasy I had that Matisse was sitting on my shoulder, and they were large paintings, and I was using some of his techniques and I was repeating patterns. It was an exploration. I have, I think, 10 of them. I will probably paint over them, but I'll paint over them in such
I'll
a
just
way.
buy you clean canvases. Don't plane over them.
No, it's okay. I'll let some of the history show, or I'll scrape away after I've kind of put a thin glaze on top.
Questions?
Gail, I have a quick question. Your
Yeah.
paintings, are they the more muted as you show up here, or are they more vibrant as it shows back here?
No, that's a good question. It really depends on the series. The Field of Green series is a very subtle, quiet series. It's muted. When you see the paintings close, you'll see that there's a lot of tension going on the surface. So despite my wish for them to be really peaceful paintings, other emotions were coming out, which you see in the surface. I love color.
Can I just but you wear all black. Can you make sense of that to me as someone who does love
Absolutely.
color?
Okay. Look
I
at the
dress
two
like a
of us.
painting just for Gail.
Okay. This is linen, so it was easy because it
Well,
was
it's like a
93
canvas.
degrees. But yes, I typically, when I'm showing myself as an artist, I tend to wear black because I want to be neutral. I want the work to show, not me.
It's an artist. We always wear black.
She's in black. I think a couple of other women are in black who are artists.
I guess I can never be an artist.
But look at that geometric abstraction
It's my
on your
most
romper.
abstract outfit. Any more questions? Wait, microphone so everyone can hear.
Thank you.
You had, a serious career as an artist. You were
Yes.
showing in Europe, all over the place.
Yes.
Before you decided to go back to get your
Yes.
MFA. So why? I mean, what made you feel? Did you feel like you needed to study more? Did you want to learn from other people? Did you just want to be in that education environment? Like, what was it? Because you were already showing. You were already.
I know. I had a lot of success. I mean, I've showed in Germany, I've shown in Italy, I've shown in other countries as well. I think it was a combination of things. I think some of it was I wanted the validation, you know. Some of it was I really wanted the challenge and the learning because I felt like I didn't go to art school formally. I don't have a BFA. So there were things that I was missing. Little did I know how much theory I would be reading, which was not what I really wanted, but that was part of the package. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So when you got to, as a woman of a certain age who
Yes.
has learned a few things
Yes.
on the road,
Yes.
when you got through school,
Yeah.
how much did you were like, oh shit, I already knew that. Like, how much did your body go, this is intrinsic and instinctive inside me, and now I just got the validation to prove I'm right?
That's an interesting question. Okay. When my first year of graduate school, actually, my husband brought many paintings of mine up so that the graduate school could see the paintings. And I got a lot of validation from the senior faculty. This is good work, which felt fabulous. And I think I wanted the validation. I didn't really need it. It was nice to have it. But I thought that there was something missing in my educational background that other artists had. Now, I was wrong in some ways. Do I really need to know minute theory about the history of painting? Maybe not. Do I feel that I'm richer because of that? Yes.
Also, just to look at the field of psychology and Dr. Martin Seligman and the perma theory of wellness, the A for accomplishment matters.
Oh, but more important than that, there is some new research, and it's not causative at this point, it's a correlation. There is a correlation between longevity and making visual art, which I just read in the last week or two.
Do you think it's tied to the sense of purpose?
I do.
Yeah.
I will never retire. I mean, part of that we could say is that that's my sickness. I just need to work. I like working. Um, but there is a passion and purpose that I have in my life that I was telling someone the story that 2 days ago I went to the fifth floor of the building that I'm in. And there was a very tall woman with really long white hair. She looked like she was 6 feet. And she was putting these 10-foot collages on the wall. And she and I started to talk. And I found out she was 85. And I just thought, I can do this. Maybe I'll have to work smaller. Maybe I'll have to have studio assistants more often. But I can do this until I die. And how lucky am I for that? So, in terms of the question we never got to about women and reinvention, I don't think you can start at 60 necessarily, but I think that our lives can be an ongoing process of growing and discovering and connecting. So,
Anyone? Any more questions? I also want to know if your son's artistic and how we can inspire the arts in our children.
I missed that on the creativity gene.
So if you can't hear, he doesn't
don't
have a
think
mic.
that's
He's
true.
not creative,
not true.
just incredibly tall and handsome.
True.
Gail, I have one question
Go
for
ahead.
you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the new Center for Creativity?
I think it can be a gathering space. I think that villages used to have these, what did they call them? Agoras? I'm sorry, what? Third spaces, okay. Where people who were different but were part of the community could come together because there was something that they had in common. And I think the Center for Creativity can bring musicians. My son is being modest. He was, what was it? You were the first chair in the Franklin Elementary School orchestra.
Let's go!
It can bring us together over music. I love music. Some of us are dancers. It can be a place where children can learn to dance or we can see performances. I think it is a way, art is a way of bringing people together and creating a sense of community. So I'm hoping that that meeting tomorrow is aces.
We got lots of good juju in the room from our interview tonight. Any final questions? No? Then I'm going to say thank you so much, Gail. If you have any final thoughts or anything we didn't cover, you have such an incredible body of work. And it's been a treat to sit with you.
Thank you. It's been really fun. I mean, words are that's your art. And
And I'm not serious, and Gail is serious.
I know,
So
we
have been
talked
yin and
about that.
yang for a couple of weeks now, and it's been really fun.
And we're not talking about mortality or death or anything like that.
We kept it light. We kept it light.
Really, we kept it light. I just want to thank everyone. Some people came from Princeton, some people came from Montclair, some people
Texas.
came Texas. My son lives in Texas. And some people came from around the block. And I'm just really glad to share this with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan and Gail, for an awesome conversation. It was thoughtful, it was funny, and I just left feeling quite inspired, to be honest. So thank you, all both of you, for that. And so many thanks to all of you. This is our final spotlight series of our spring season, and it just feels sort of like, forgive me, but like poetic, that it's the room, I think, that's filled with the most artists of any of the spotlight series that we've done since October. So thank you all for joining us. And also, you're part of a group of, I think, about maybe 210 other people who have joined our spotlight series since that time and have really become what I think has formed as our proof of concept. That, I love that we finished on the note of this being a gathering space. As I've talked to more people who were looking to have support the work that we're going to be doing here, I've found myself using the language that some people are going to come for the creativity and stay for the community. and others are going to come for the community and stay for the creativity. And so as we're creating this space together and we're leaving some awesome vibes in the room tonight to plant for the meeting tomorrow, I just want to leave you all with a couple action items perhaps that you can help us with. This is going to be a spot, I think, where we can leave our to-do lists and the burdens of our day and our screens behind, and just do something different. And as Gail spoke about, this really resonated with me, like the reason to not start something new and to reinvent is often fear. And as I look at the incredible group of volunteers, some of whom have been working on this for 6 or 7 years, I sometimes think, like, how have they kept this up? How did they start when the fear of failing is so prominent? And I look at all of them and think, like, what an amazing way to spend your time and spend your life is creating something like this, even if it's not guaranteed that it's going to happen. But thanks to the meeting we're having tomorrow and the support that we're receiving from folks like you, it's that much closer to actually being a success. And we want to, deliver on that for all of you. And the way that you can help is a few different ways. So first, we are done being the best kept secret in Westfield. We want you to connect us to friends, to potential donors. Once we receive notification from the state that they're giving us 80% of our funding, we have 12 months to raise the remaining part. And so it's only going to be by the 210 of you folks who have come to Spotlight and all of the people that you talk to about our work that will make that match happen to unlock this money for Westfield. You can support us. You can make a donation to our Rialto Reimagine campaign, and certainly follow us and stay connected on social media so you can see what we're up to. You can see the good news. You can see when we release our special one event, Summer Spotlight series, where Kevin Feige from Westfield High School graduate and president of Marvel will join us for a virtual event here. So if you follow us on social media, you'll see when all of that is launched, and you can get your tickets quickly. And if you have any questions about the Rialto, the work that we're doing, or any ideas on how to connect us to people who would be supportive, you can find me. I'm Jill Vorndran. I'm the Director of Development. And there's a ton of amazing volunteers here who have gotten this project going and have been working on it for a long time and are going to be celebrating like crazy down here once we receive word from the state that they're going to fund 80% of our project. So thank you all for coming.